January 6, 2018. Panic engulfs elites as feared Trump trap prepares to spring and CDC warns of nuclear war. An astonishing new Security Council SC report circulating in the Kremlin today claims with grudging admiration that President Donald Trump has now become one of the greatest Machiavellian masters of modern political times and who, while at the same time his elite leftist enemies are incessantly cheering a fake news book positing that he has lost his mind, has gathered around himself this weekend all of his top Republican Party and intelligence agency leadership at his impregnable Camp David compound, but that, most importantly, doesn't include his Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who, instead, is preparing to spring one of the most audacious straps upon Trump's enemies the United States has ever seen, but whose success is not assured, and is why Trump's Centers for Disease Control and Prevention (CDC) has just stunningly announced that it will start preparing the American people for nuclear war. According to this report, acting in the mode of a true Machiavellian master who employs cunning and duplicity in statecraft, President Trump, during the entirety of 2017, endured one of the most vicious and sustained assaults upon his legitimacy ever witnessed in U.S. history, but who, while under this unrelenting assault, was able to create a trap for his elite leftist enemies, and that he sprung on them just weeks ago in the form of a once-in-a-generation new tax law that, in essence and fact, declared war on his nation's blue states opposing him, and that these leftist elites described as an assault on the cultural and economic foundation of liberal America. In quick retaliation, though, this report continues, Trump's leftist enemies rushed to the press's a salacious creed fake news book titled Fire and Fury Inside the Trump White House, wherein its author, Michael Wolff, portrayed Trump, his entire family, and his White House as all being idiots, and that the elite leftist media establishment in America has been using non-stop to pummel Trump, but with none of them providing the American people with truth of whom this author really is, and who has been described as, by longtime Slate and Politico reporter Jack Schaffer. Wolff exploits the human tendency to confuse frankness and cruelty with truth-telling. And by repeatedly reminding the reader of what a dishonest, scheming little shit he is, he seeks to inflate his credibility. A real liar wouldn't tell you that he's a liar as Wolff does, would he? By longtime Atlantic editor Michelle Cottle, much to the annoyance of Wolff's critics, the scenes in his columns aren't recreated so much as created springing from Wolff's imagination rather than from actual knowledge of events. As to how the elite leftist American mainstream media establishment has even allowed such a proven liar as Michael Wolff to be so prominently featured, this report says, provides the only proof one needs to see that their agenda is no longer reporting news and true facts to the people they serve, but has, instead, provided the proof that they have become nothing more than the propaganda arm of the deep state that's attempting to destroy President Trump, and is further evidenced by the shocking revelation that over 90% of their coverage about Trump has been negative. With the American elite leftist mainstream media, therefore, consuming themselves with trying to destroy President Trump to the exclusion of nearly everything else, this report continues, Security Council intelligence analysts noted with astonishment they're barely mentioning that, on 3 January, Trump's Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein and FBI Director Chris Wray made an unannounced visit to see the powerful Republican Party Speaker of the House of Representatives Paul Ryan, and whose meeting was, also, attended by the former top President Ronald Reagan administration U.S. Justice Department official James Wooten. Important to know about how critical James Wooten is to the trap being laid by President Trump for his elite leftist enemies to become next ensnared in, this report details, is that while he was a top U.S. Department Justice official in the Reagan administration in the 1980s, he was, also, the mentor to the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Alabama, who is now Trump's Attorney General Jeff Sessions, and that during the 1980s, saw them work together to create numerous national programs including the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, FBI's National Center for the Analysis of Violent Crime, National Court-appointed Special Advocates, National Child Safety Center, Child Safety Partnership, National Partnership to Prevent Drug and Alcohol Abuse and Serious Habitual Offender Comprehensive Action Program. And to fully understand how James Wooten has now become the most feared man in America to the leftists fighting President Trump, this report explains, one must go back to early February 2016, when Trump met in New York City with Charles Cooper, the founding partner of the powerful Washington, D.C.-based law firm Cooper & Kirk, and who many were advocating to become Trump's Solicitor General, but whose main outcome of their meeting led to then U.S. Senator Jeff Sessions stunning the political world by announcing that he was supporting Trump's bid for the presidency. Cooper & Kirk founding member Charles Cooper, aside from his becoming Attorney General Sessions' personal attorney, and being a close personal friend of Trump, this report continues, has also overseen the litigation of Safe Streets Alliance, a highly secretive Washington, D.C.-based anti-drug organization chaired by James Wooten and who, in 2015, began the most feared attack in U.S. history on the so-called legal marijuana industry, with Cooper & Kirk attorney Brian Barnes vowing, "We're putting a bounty on the heads of anyone doing business with the marijuana industry." To how James Wooten and Cooper & Kirk were going to put bounty on the heads of anyone doing business with the marijuana industry, this report explains, was by targeting them with the Racketeer-Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act (RICO), that is a federal law designed to combat organized crime by allowing prosecution and civil penalties for racketeering activity associated with an ongoing criminal enterprise, and that U.S. federal law is very clear about it's a violation of federal law to be aiding and abetting the use, transportation and sale of marijuana. Earlier this past summer 2017, this report continues, James Wooten and Cooper & Kirk won a stunning victory in their use of RICO organized crime laws to target the legal marijuana industry when the 10th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Colorado ruled in their favor, and whose fears of the elite leftist Rolling Stone magazine described as, "RICO's whole notion of racketeering creates a useful but alarming tautology, depending on the case and your point of view. To accuse someone of racketeering, or to seek damages under racketeering, is to go after them for the crime of committing a crime. Because marijuana remains federally illegal, literally everyone involved in state legal pot markets is vulnerable under RICO. To whom are the most vulnerable to be targeted by RICO organized crime laws for anything having to do with marijuana, this report explains, is nearly every single elite leftist blue state whose leaders have been trying to destroy to President Trump, but who, also, have legalized marijuana in their states to boost their failing tax bases that Trump's tax law trap has further endangered, and that 2 days ago, on 4 January, saw Attorney General Jeff Sessions siding with James Wooten and Cooper & Kirk by telling his U.S. attorneys throughout America that their hands were now untied when it came to their enforcing U.S. federal marijuana laws. In President Trump, through Attorney General Sessions, now firmly backing James Wooten and Cooper & Kirk in targeting his elite leftist blue state enemies by destroying their marijuana tax base, this report details. He has further demonstrated his Machiavellian master abilities in that it will be private citizens, not his government, that destroys the legal marijuana industry, thus allowing Trump to rightfully claim that he has nothing whatsoever to do with what is happening. This report concludes by asserting that it is without a doubt what President Trump and his Republican Party and intelligence allies are currently discussing this weekend at Camp David as this new trap he has laid for these elite leftist blue state enemies of his is, also, the largest bargaining chip ever possessed by an American leader against his opponents, and that Trump could very well cash in by agreeing to support a federal legalization of marijuana in exchange for whatever he wants: outlawing of blue state sanctuary sites, healthcare overhaul, Mexican border wall, etc. Or, if no bargain can be made, watch and do nothing as Attorney General Sessions unleashes his forces to support James Wooten and Cooper & Kirk while they demolish these blue states once and for all, but with everyone, also, hoping that the deep state won't strike back and nuke an entire city out of spite.